Hello everybody, and welcome into another episode of jewelry making on Create Like Katy. Today we're going to be working with leather, and it's one of my favorite ways to make jewelry. It's so easy and everybody seems to just love leather jewelry. So we're going to be working on some fun bracelets today. There, connectors in the middle of bracelets are really easy to make. You could also use textured jump rings if they're strong to be the focal of your piece. I have pulled a few other connectors that I thought would look really, really awesome in the middle of a leather bracelet. I particularly love this little star. You need something that has two loops on either end, and then here are those little fancy jump rings that I use on some of them too. But these do open and close, so I feel like they're like slightly less sturdy than something that's completely metal, but it's up to you. Okay, then I've got my little enders set up. I've got my crimp ends here. I've got my fold over ends. I've got some different jump rings and clasps. So then I've got my leather. And this is 2mm leather cord, which is a classic size of cord for jewelry making. We're going to be using that today. But I did just want to take a note that if you have a connector at home, I think this is pretty obvious, but if the 2mm leather doesn't fit through, like, let me just show you, for example, if it doesn't fit through those two little loops on your connector, like this maybe, you can always, first, what you're gonna do is splice the end of your leather like this with a really heavy duty cord snip or cutter and see if you can get it in that way. And it's barely going through, so then the next step is to try to pull it through with a tool, which honestly, I didn't think that was gonna work so well, but that can also damage your leather if it's too taut, like if it's just, you know, the more you pull it through, it'll damage your leather. So you may just need to size down to a 1.5mm leather. Another little tip is if you have a little round file, like a little, this is just like a little stick file, you can try to put it in the hole of your connector just to kind of ream it out a little bit. You could probably even use your bead reamer just to kind of widen out that hole. And I don't know if you can really tell the difference, but I feel like it made it a little bit bigger. So also you can do fancy knots, or you can do regular overhand knots. So if this knot is not for you, you can do an overhand knot. I can show you both ways if you want to, just so it's really, you know, sometimes I don't really want to do a fancy knot. I'm just like, I want to make an easy peasy bracelet. Okay, alrighty. So first we're going to cut our leather cord. Making sure I'm going to use the black on this star. This black leather cord is so pretty. Okay, and it fits through, so I'm going to use the black, and I'm going to cut. Basically, we do one side and then the other. I'm going to cut about 22 inches. I'm going to cut two pieces that long, one for each side. And as I do this, I kind of pull it to stretch it out. It's getting kind of near the end of the spool. It's kind of in the middle of the spool, so sometimes that just helps make it relax a little bit. So get your leather and put it through one of the connectors here and pull. You're gonna pull it to the middle of your leather and then pull one side a bit shorter. Maybe like just 2 inches. Make one end 2 inches longer, okay? And then with that longer piece, you're gonna coil around the shorter piece to make your knot. And if you want, you can just kind of hold your connector here And with the with the longer piece, you're going to make a coil around the shorter piece. See that? And then you're gonna kind of hold that in place with your finger. And then you're gonna make another coil over that, but towards your hand. Going up towards your connector. You can do as many of these coils that you want. That'll give you the number on your knots. And then you can just slide them down. I'm already getting a little bit out of order. Take the end of that piece and you're gonna slide it through that channel next to the shorter strand that you were coiling around. And then you just pull that strand. It makes a really pretty barrel knot. Let me smell. Barrel knot. Barrel knot and moose. Okay. So then all you have to do to get it back up to your connector is pull on that other cord that you wrapped around and it pulls it all the way up to the top. Now we can go to the other side and do the same thing. Put it through the other loop and then make one end a little bit longer than the other. This is a 22-inch piece of leather. So just make one end a little longer. And then with the long side, you're gonna be coiling around this short side. Hold your connector in your hand. And I usually, honestly, I don't know, I kind of pinch this part in a way and I coil around my finger and the short piece of leather. So take the long piece, coil, 1, 2, 3. Connector still in my hand, put that through the channel and slowly pull. See, it makes that nice little loop and pull. Even if it gets out of order a little bit like that, it's okay. Usually you can kind of roll it around and make sure it sits where you want it to. Okay. So then once again, we're gonna scooch it up to the finding up here. Just pull that. And it's so nice and pretty and finished looking. Okay, so this is just gonna be a single strand bracelet. Everybody's wrists will probably be a little bit different length. And it also depends on the clasp that you're gonna be using. So usually I'm making it for myself, but you know, a lot of us sell our jewelry and give it away, so I should make it for all sizes. Let me just give an approximate measurement here. All right, I'm gonna cut this piece to be 7 inches here. Stars in the middle. I'm just gonna use my cutter from my Jewel School tool kit. And measure once more. 7 inches. Okay. All right, so here we go. We're ready to add our little clasp. And whether you're using fold over end caps, crimp ends, whatever, you can do it. So these are actually 3mm leather crimp ends. And if you want to, you can actually fit two 2mm pieces in there. But you do have to kind of press them together. You kind of have to work at it. If you are going to use these types of end caps, I probably would recommend cutting at a splice then you just twist it down. And the nice thing about these is you can see the leather coming through the very end, so you know when you're good. You don't want it to stick up through it, but you can see it. So seeing it a little bit's okay. And then also you want to pay attention to which way the loop is facing. I'm going to keep it all on this flat plane if possible. So then all you do is take a chain nose plier and squeeze this inner section. Usually just do the right side a little bit, flip it over, do the left side. Because I think those decorative borders are pretty. Okay, so that's how you do those little crimp ends there. And then I'll show you how to do a fold over clasp on the other side. Okay, lately I have been using my Tara crimper for this. I don't know, I feel like there's a little tiny bit of texture on the inside of Laura's tools, the Tara crimper. So if you have this, this is a great tool to use for this section, or you can use a classic flat nose plier as well. All right, so here's my little fold over end cap. A little tip is they come open flat like that. This one has a tooth. Some don't have little teeth. So if you don't have a little tooth on the inside, then you may not need to use glue. But just take it and fold one side down just a little bit before you start. This is one of the first things I learned when I started at the bead shop. We used to make leather necklaces all the time. So that's a good first step. Then you can slide your leather in. And I may have to press it down a little bit from above. Sorry about that. Okay. So then I'm actually going to, I've got it set up, ready. And I've just smushed the leather down in there. This side is the one that I've already started to fold down. This one's still pointing straight up. I'm gonna start with the one pointing straight up and just kind of add an angle, grab it, and fold that side down. Okay, so the one that I previously folded down is actually holding it in a little bit better than it normally would. So that's just a little tip. And then go back over and fold down the one that we started with. Okay, so here's another little tip is don't smash it when you do that step. Don't smash it flat or anything like that. Just slowly kind of round those down. Like you want it to be secure, but if you flatten them, then you won't be able to do this. Next step that I really like is when you can see one of these is down a little bit further than the other, and you can take your pliers and actually squeeze the sides. To close that gap. Just kind of slowly work on this. And I feel like this tip is really important when you're using just one strand of leather in a fold over ender. So those are two ways to end your leather bracelet. And then the next step would be just to add your jump rings in your clasp. I've got my little jump ring here. Put it through this loop. Put my little lobster claw here. And then if you want, it just kind of depends on how you're ending your piece, but you can just connect straight to those if you want. but obviously you want to have matching end pieces, and you probably want to match your charm too. So this is just a little mixed metal piece, but I just kind of wanted to go over some tips and tricks of this leather bracelet. Don't forget your triangle file. You can see some in the show, and all these connectors and end caps that you may need to stock back up on. And once again, if you need to pick up any of the tools or supplies we used today, check out the links in the description below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be alerted for future demos.